Hello, and welcome to another rendition of what you should be watching with me, Brad Fitzpatrick, and my ever so lovely hetero life mate, Zach Washburn. Say hi, Zach.
Hi, Zach.
How was your week?
Um, it sucked.
It sucked. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, I saw your video on forgiveness, by the way, the cynical bastard. And,
Yeah.
I,
Hope you take it to heart. Of course, you don't probably have a problem with forgiveness. You're pretty empathetic, but
yeah, I try
something
to.
a lot of people need to learn. So,
Very, very much so. I mean, it's quite sad in today's society that um, we can just hold grudges as long as we have for no reason. Like it's not like we murdered somebody's family or something,
I know.
though I want to sometimes. I mean,
Just the fact that you don't and are able to hold that in is forgiving.
yeah, yeah. I want to drink from the skulls of my enemies, which are many, but I
Sure.
choose not to. I choose not to.
Yeah.
I instead, choose a cup. But all right, guys. On that note, we are doing horror movies today. Our top 5 horror movies, which there are lots because I have a huge amount of horror movies. I am a big horror movie buff, so I'm probably going to pull from a lot of places. Um, though I will say, we did do a lot of the episode on what you shouldn't be watching, and in that regard, there were lots of horror movies on there that were bad. But these are the ones you should be watching. I do not know Zach's list, like always, and he doesn't know what my picks are. So hopefully, by letting him go first, if he picks any of the ones that I have that's in my mind, I have lots of others to, kind of court tail in there. But without further ado, and until Zach's internet decides to crap out on us again,
Sorry.
it's okay. We still love you. What is your number 5 horror pick, Zach?
Well, before I get into that, I just wanted to say, I love horror movies too. Um, there's there's many different classifications of a horror film. There's gory films and slasher films and haunted house movies and stuff. I like them all, and I'll go into a theater and the adrenaline will pump, get me and jump scares, and I'll get scared a little bit. My 5 movies, though, especially like the top three, affected me like really scared me.
Ooh,
Like
all right.
they were those kind of scares that stick with you,
Hmm.
where they'll actually keep you up, and you're wondering about it, that just kind of, like when you have a really horrible nightmare and it kind of sticks with you a few days. Um, a couple of them I watched when I was younger, and that had a lot to do with it. Uh, but there are 3 on there that I watch as an adult and really, really kind of stuck with me. So we'll go right into it. This fourth one, um, not as much as the other 4. That's what I said. This fifth one, uh, Paranormal Activity.
Ooh,
When the first one came out, I love the series. I love them all.
love them.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the first one, I watched here alone. It was dark, and I'm really glad I did that because I think it really brought out the essence of that movie. Her that real camera action movie, and uh, the lady in it, sleepwalking, just standing there for hours watching her boyfriend sleep. It's just
Yeah.
creepy. Her being dragged across the floor, really, really got to me. It was good, and I like all the sequels too.
Yeah. Well, I liked 1, 2, and 3. After that, they kind of like fell off a little bit for me because it felt like they put too much into it.
Yeah,
That first one is genuinely the best one. And talk about like low budget movie that ended up exploding
yeah, it was great.
into massive amounts of money.
Right. And I also think it did what Blair Witch Project, which
Yeah.
couldn't or didn't, and show stuff.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that's true, but I mean, still, Blair Witch was great. Blair Witch was
well, which is
so.
great for people who liked that, but
Oh,
there's other people who didn't like it because they didn't show anything and lifted your imagination. I get the appeal in that.
yeah,
I didn't like it. I know you're a fan of it,
yes,
but and there's a lot of people that did. I mean, it made huge amounts of profit. But this one gave you that,
Yeah.
and plus a little more. I thought.
I'll grant you that. I will grant you that, and that's probably the reason why I liked it too, because it felt like there was more, because they did add a lot of like editing tricks and things like that
Right.
to pronounce a demonic possession. Whereas like Blair Witch, they're just like, no, we're not going to add any of that. Our movie is just basically like three cameras that in the end we're just going to edit the movie together using all
Hmm.
three of these cameras,
Right.
and that's it. Which again, you rent off like three really good cameras, like $500, $600 somewhere around there, and they patch that movie together. They spent like what, like maybe $3,000 on that movie and made millions,
Yeah.
billions almost, basically on all the return in the end. And that's the same thing with Paranormal Activity. Like Paranormal Activity was like a $4,000 movie. Like even the house that they were in was actually owned by the director.
Right.
And it exploded. It was such a great minimalistic film that was so compelling in its nature and storytelling that everybody knows this movie now. You know, and it could have flopped because horror movies like have a habit
Or it
that
could.
they
Yeah.
flop like
They
hard.
marketed it really well too, because a lot of people were wondering if it was real or if it was a movie. Because the way they market, there's no credits at the very first. I
Yep.
think Blair Witch did the same thing.
Yes.
When it starts, this footage was found, by police or
Hmm.
whatever, and it tricks people into thinking that it's actually real and
Well,
that they actually found the movie.
and I mean, with the advent of Blair Witch, whenever they did that, the actors actually ghosted themselves for months after the movie was released in theaters. Everybody thought it was real. Like nobody had
Right.
seen the actors or those people for like months and months, and then they finally came out and they're like, no, no, we're alive. It's just a movie. Ha ha ha. Please give me your money now. I mean, that's it. But good choice for number five. If that's your number five, Zach, I have high hopes for the rest of your movies.
Oh, you're gonna love them,
So,
surely.
like I have so many in my head right now that I'm like, man, how many honorable mentions can we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But like I said, most of the horror films I like, they're entertaining,
Yes.
but they don't affect me like these.
Right.
So number 4 is a classic. It's going to be on a lot of people's top 10 list, I'm sure. Didn't see it till I was like 14 or 15. Still, The Exorcist.
Yes. And you know what? When you said it was a classic and on everybody's top 10 list, I was like, has to be The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Has to be.
When I first saw this, my mother had told me about it. This is another one of those movies my mother and I shared together. She read the book
Yes.
when she was young, and her mother, my grandmother, always supported her reading. And but she didn't really know what it was about. And they always tell the story about my mother being, and I'm talking young, like 8 or 9, reading The Exorcist. And she comes in and she's like, "Mom, what does sodomize mean?" She's like, "What the hell are you reading?" Anyway, and then later the movie came out, and she said it scared her to death. So I want to watch it. Now we first started this, and if you'll remember, it's a little slow at first.
Oh, yeah. It's
When
really kind of,
Yeah, when Reagan
ooh,
finally starts acting weird, and then you see the first possession, the bed was kind of shaking, and they used the cheesy effect. And I actually looked at my mom. I said, "Oh, come on, this is stupid." Then all of a sudden, that same scene, Linda Blair rears back, and her eyes go back in her head, and she starts that, "Ah," that horrible noise.
hmm
I just stopped, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" That scene stuck with me a long time. It was
Do you
it
know
was
she
something.
actually broke her back in that movie?
She didn't break her back. I do know what you're talking about though. She strained it,
Yeah.
cut herself through that. She was dehydrated
hmm
through that movie. Yeah, but
God, talk about like great acting though in that movie. Like I don't
that
think,
little girl, yeah,
oh
she did
man, Linda Blair in that movie was excellent.
yeah,
Talk about like massive undertaking, like that again was probably really kind of low budget. The most budget was done on the bed and her makeup,
Right.
because the majority of the movie is done in her bedroom.
It is.
You know, man, and you're right. That movie really sticks with you.
Yeah, it does, and you know, they didn't leave a lot to the imagination, and it you know, came out in the '70s, I think,
Yeah.
and really broke a whole lot of ground as far as you know, the graphic nature of it, and you know, really throwing people into a possession type film. You didn't really have a possession type movie
Nope.
until that came out.
Yep. I mean, I think that was one of the very first. They had done like earlier ones that
Yeah.
that used possession as like almost zombie type,
Right.
but it wasn't like to that um like huge ordeal, which really stapled The Exorcist as one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
So good choice.
Absolutely.
Like I'm really enjoying your list so far, Zach. Come on,
Wait.
number 3, hit me with it.
Not sure how you feel about this one. Like I said, very entertaining movie. I loved it. Saw this when I was kind of young. This movie actually gave me the fear that it's named for, arachnophobia.
Oh no, I love that movie.
I
Like,
love it too.
oh my gosh, there's still like you can't watch that movie even as an adult without doing one of.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That movie actually gave me a fear of spiders.
Yeah.
When I growing up, I always lived in the country. Spiders everywhere. Never bothered me. That
Yeah.
movie came out, we watched him. Deathly afraid of them. Where I actually had to say I have arachnophobia. That we kind of lived in an urban type area then. I got a little older, got married, we moved out to the country again, and I've slowly gotten used to it again. I can watch arachnophobia now and not be really scared.
Yeah.
Spiders don't bother me a lot much, but after watching that movie, really, really scared. Love that movie. Love the effects.
Oh.
Using those real spiders, you know,
Mhm.
that weren't even poisonous. You know,
Yeah.
but they're able to be trained, sort of, and they jump.
Yep.
Those spiders were great.
And I mean, even though we know it's a movie as adults,
Yeah.
right? We watch that movie as like we've seen it like millions and millions of times. You know, like probably not millions. I'm over exaggerating here, but enough times to know that it's a movie. It's a great movie. It's really good. But even after watching that movie now, you still get that. Like, like is there one here?
Right.
And I mean, it empowers you. Like that
Yeah.
movie, like is one of the most empowering horrific movies because you don't know, because there are poisonous spiders out there that can
There
kill
are.
you in one
And
bite.
You bringing that up, I was about to say the story is so simple, but it was real. The story is really great.
Yes.
Though, you know, going into this place, this sinkhole, you know, in South America that's never been touched by man. There's no way these spiders could get out. And then, you know, there's no telling what's there.
Yep.
And you know, one of them comes to America, and that's what a great, you know. And I like how they were kind of like a different also type of social. They act like ants instead of spiders.
Yep.
You know, and there was a queen, and I really liked the story. Was awesome.
Yeah. Such a fantastic pick. Like I can remember the last time I watched that movie, just because I had all the lights out, I was sitting on the couch,
Yeah.
and like the part where when he goes into the barn, right, and it's all covered in webs, and he's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it's huh. So like, good choice for number 3. Like I still get kind of like goosebumps when I watch that movie.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's any other movie that makes me like actual scared, even though I know it's a movie,
Right.
because those are real. You know, you can see like all these like Strangers Hunt at Night, or like Purge movies where people are the problem.
Right.
None of them grabs you as hard as arachnophobia.
Well, you know, arachnophobia is the number one fear in the
Yeah.
world. Isn't it?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
No, arachnophobia is the number one fear.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
There's like arachnophobia, heights,
Yeah.
snakes. I believe arachnophobia is the. Go ahead, look it up, Brad, and prove me wrong.
That's what I'm doing. You know me. I have the mini internet here. Number one fear in the world.
Bradophobia.
Probably. Okay, what is these? It just gives me, what's number one fear in the world? Public speaking is listed as America's number one fear before
Not
death.
America, that world.
Yeah, well, that's, this immediately pops up there, okay? But they don't do like number one, they do like top tens. Arachnophobia is on there as top 10.
Well, I don't know where I heard that, Brad. Okay, just believe me when I say it.
Yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir.
Don't question me, okay?
You got to do that. It's like, yes.
Yeah. Don't question me. Arachnophobia is number one fear.
Okay, number one fear, arachnophobia. It will always be in here now.
Right.
But great choice, arachnophobia. Got some really good numbers here. All right, number two. What is your number two movie?
Number two, I've talked about it before, so I'm kind of cheating here, but it's got to be on the list.
I mean,
Scared a lot of people. The first major blockbuster. My number one favorite movie of all time.
Number two.
Jaws. It's number two as far as scary.
Uh-huh.
It's my number one in the top 10, if you'll remember. Jaws.
Right. Okay.
This is my favorite movie of all time. But when I first saw this as a kid, it scared me just like it did everybody else. I didn't want to get into the bathtub.
Yeah.
Because I thought the shark would come out of the drain and eat me.
I mean,
even getting into a pool where I knew nothing was in there, I could see the bottom.
mm-hmm.
Just the thought of swimming, just like that girl in the first scene, I thought I was going to be chomped on and bit my legs off and drown.
Right. And I mean, again, just like arachnophobia, these are real creatures. And even though it garnered like a huge like xenophobia of sharks, everybody was so afraid of sharks that wouldn't actually do this, just like spiders. But it's like this huge explosion of fear all over the world. And now they'll actually do like outside theater productions of Jaws on lakes. On lakes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go ahead. You're at a pool. We're going to play Jaws on this big screen in front of you. Have fun.
Right.
And I want to do it.
I would do that.
I don't
know about a lake, but maybe I know they do it at a water park. They used to do it at Whitewater.
Yeah. So I know San Francisco does it at the San Francisco Bay or something. So, I would definitely do it. That's awesome. My kids have even seen Jaws, but that'll tell you, my kids have seen Jaws and they love it. They have not seen arachnophobia because that will scare them to death. I'm sorry, because you can watch Jaws and be in a landlocked state like Oklahoma, like we are, and be like, well, there's not going to be any type of shark coming at us.
Right.
But in a landlocked state in Oklahoma where spiders are present, arachnophobia will shake you.
Sure will.
So that's why my kids have not watched it yet.
Yeah.
It's that bad. But of course, number two, good choice. Also your favorite movie. Was on, one of my favorite movies of all time too. So what's your number one though? I got to see what your number one for horror is.
Number one, I saw this in my mid-late 20s, like when it first came out. I forgot when it first came out. But this was the only movie in my adulthood that really stuck with me. It took me weeks to shake this.
Was it your birth movie?
What's that?
What?
What'd you say?
I said, was it your birth movie?
No.
It wasn't my sex tape, was it? Because, that'll scare everybody.
The Grudge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know what it is. The way that creepy girl moved, her noises she made. I literally had a hard time falling asleep every night, weeks after I saw that movie, and she still creeps me the fuck out. And
the sad part is, it's a remake, Zach.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've seen. I haven't seen it, but I know about Ju-On.
Yeah,
and
it's.
Grudge, I guess The Grudge is actually a scene for scene remake.
Mm-hmm.
They just use different It's like
different actors, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is scene by scene, but there are still camera tricks that in the original, like, are good. Like even
Yeah.
deeper scares, in my opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, you're right. The Grudge, so good at doing their scares, and because like I think for the longest time, Asian horror movies were some of the best in my opinion because they weren't so focused on gore. They weren't
Right.
so focused on trying to create a narrative that would be fun and clingy to like American audiences. They
Yeah.
took a genre that was already present and they're just like, well, you know what? We're just going to amp up everything here to make it what it needs to be. The scares are top notch. The editing in it to make the scares are top notch, you know, and it works. You know, Grudge 1 and Grudge 2, just great movies.
The third one sucked.
Yeah, third one was bad. They changed directors though, and that's the problem.
Did
You
they?
know, yeah.
Well,
And-
it was I don't know, it was direct to DVD crap.
Yeah.
Different.
yeah. But the number 1 and number 2, great,
Yeah, two was
great
good
adaptation.
too. Yeah, I like the second one.
You know, and I mean, that's like what's the Ring, like the Ring stuff. You know, those are same basic principle as Grudge. They were originally Japanese horror movies, and then they brought it over as like an American remake. And you know, the first one was really good. Anything after that was kind of blah, but the first one was really good. You know, I've seen some really good Japanese horror. You know.
Yeah.
So are there any honorable mentions that you would like to bring to the table before I bring out my list?
Not that it affected me like that. Actually, it was hard for me to come up with the fifth one on this one. Like I said, I love scary movies. They entertain me. Some of them give me some jump scares. I gotta probably mention The Conjuring.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot that I find entertaining. And the Insidious movies were good, but nothing that Alien, that's a good one. But nothing affected me emotionally like these,
those.
like really scared.
I mean that's understandable. Like I don't have like, I mean, yeah, with like arachnophobia it leaves that fear in you, but I don't I don't think I'll have like that emotionally connected because I watch so many horror movies and
Right.
so many of them are on my radar as being what they are. And so like I've got like whole bunches of horror movies that I would like to name. So like it's amazing that you picked out all the ones that you picked out are probably some of the best horror movies, that in a very long time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Old school horror movies are sometimes some of the best. And that's
Okay.
like I'll pick my number 5, and I'll tell you this right now. I wasn't going to put this on my list because I thought it might be on yours. Okay?
Okay.
But this is my number 5. My number 5 is the original Night of the Living Dead.
The original.
The original.
A
Yes.
little dated. I actually have the Rip Tracks version of that. If you've never seen it, Brad, it's amazing. They do a great riff on it.
I don't doubt it. But it's one of my favorite because it brings you back to the very beginning of good zombie horror roots.
Yeah.
And it still empowers the entire zombie thought process and how even to this day in TV shows like The Walking Dead and other zombie movies where they incorporate the George A. Romero zombies.
Right.
It's the first one that kind of spawns you like, yes, there are zombies. They're not the threat in this world. This world, the threat is other people, as it has always been.
Right.
You may be fighting off zombies that would kill you and eat you and everything else, which are bad. But in the end, if you band together, you can fight them off. But that doesn't mean that you'll survive. And it's one of my, like, I love all the other Romero movies, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and stuff like that. But the original Night of the Living Dead is probably my number 5 pick. And on an honorable mention for number 5, I will say that Diary of the Dead was probably the last good Dead movie.
Yeah.
It's another Handycam movie, which I know you like as much as I do. It's probably
Yes.
one of the best that's been done in a long time.
Let's check it out. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's hard to find because it went straight to DVD, but it's one of those straight to DVD horror movies that just really knocked it out of the park in my opinion. Okay, number 4. Number 4, I'm going to actually say, okay, the Autopsy of Jane Doe. Relatively newer. I think we may have talked about it at one point in time or another.
Maybe.
It is. It still is one of my favorite, like, modern horror movies. It's the, well, I think I may have the actual box. You think that after so many times that you do this, Zach, I might take a page from your book and just be ready, but I'm not.
Yeah, why do that?
You know, why be, you know, the ever-encompassing and amazing Zach?
There's only one me.
There is. And that's why we love you. But this is the Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I remember you showing me that. I think you had mentioned this on our Hidden Gems episode.
I probably did because it's still one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Even to this day, because it's one of those that I can actually sit back and watch every time. And it never ceases to give me that, you know, that still kind of scary feeling. And, you know, if you haven't watched it, I know you haven't yet, Zach, but if other people out there have not watched it, please do. It's fantastic. You know, little hidden gem done by IFC Midnight, who has done some really good hidden gems, like Don't Knock Twice, The Girl on Willow Lane, I think is what it's called. Really good, scary movies. It really nailed that apart as a real, like independent horror movie company. So shout out to IFC Midnight. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. You're fueling all of us fanboys out there. Okay? And yes, if you can send me something, I'd be happy. But
Shameless plug there.
right. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'll do it. I'll call him Daddy. It's okay. Okay. My number
3.
All right. You know, from my background, I am a huge Stephen King fan.
Yes.
Absolutely big Stephen King fan. And there is no other greatest scary movie that he has done. Now, mind you, a lot of his movies are gold. Like, some of them are kind of hit and miss, but there's a good handful of Stephen King movies that are outright gold when it comes to horror movies. And I'm going to pick the classic It.
Yeah. The classic It.
The classic It, the original made-for-TV movie. Now, don't get me wrong. The new remake of It is amazing. It's great. Does a great job as doing everything else. But Tim Curry as Pennywise is just, we've talked about Tim Curry before. We've talked about how amazing he is. And he nails this character outright and just sends all of those shivers down your spine. All of them.
The creep factor is very high with that. He did an amazing job. Yeah.
I mean, and the new guy that did Pennywise, man, I cannot remember the name at the top of my head. He does a great job too.
Yeah.
He really does. But
Yeah,
it's different. Like Tim Curry, they're just like, you know what? We're gonna dress you up as a clown, and then Tim Curry, like, he's the one that embodies the clown to make it scary. Like, he looks like just a regular clown. Whereas, like, the new It, like, yeah, everything about his clown makeup is kind of scary.
Right.
Like, Tim Curry's like, no, you just look like a regular clown. And he fueled the fear of clowns
Yes.
for years. Years. And it's one of those that's just, Like, my daughter, my oldest, has seen the new It. She wants to see the original It. And I'm like, I would love for you to see the original It, but it's like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have the attention span. And it is, in my opinion, probably just a little bit scarier. You know? The ambiance in the movie is probably higher, in my
There
opinion.
is, yeah, there's some high creep factor there that you might need to worry about.
Yeah. But Tim Curry in It is just phenomenal.
He
I
is
don't,
not,
and again, I don't think I've ever seen a bad movie with Tim Curry in it.
really can't think of one either.
Yeah. And honorable mentions here. I'll have to say Carrie, Pet Cemetery. You know, those are some of my favorite Stephen King movies.
We should have a Stephen King episode all in its own. We could, yeah,
We could. I
yeah.
mean, really. And have you heard? They finally picked up the Talisman to make a TV series out of.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yes. And then they're also remaking Pet Cemetery, which you had to have heard by now.
Yeah, heard
And
that.
it looks just as good. But that
Yeah,
original Pet Cemetery is just as scary to me, too. But it didn't have Tim
sure.
Curry, so it couldn't be on my list.
Yeah,
And when I say Carrie, I mean the original Carrie. The original Sissy Spacek Carrie
oh yeah,
is so much better than the remake.
I agree.
They shouldn't have remade it, but I understand. I kind of understand why.
Good choice. If you're gonna do Stephen King, it's a very good one to put on there. Okay, I think I know your number one then. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Thing is great. Yeah, yes. Great example. Great example. That was a great effect. Then they were just so out there, but they just, yeah, really creepy effects. Those slimy type transformation effects, and the paranoia that they set in those films with the actors was great. Yeah, another dated movie that, yeah, I remember for that. I played it. It was very hard. I didn't like it. I mean, you could sneeze and everyone would start get pissed at you and start shooting. They're like, what? John doesn't sneeze. I love that. Of course, you didn't know it was a prequel at first. You thought it was a remake, and then it became. I love that. Yeah, it really did. But I can't believe I didn't realize it until I did not realize until they started shooting at that damn dog from the helicopter, and I was like, oh my god, this is a prequel. This is great. Right. Yeah. I like that one. Sam Neill. Yeah. Yeah, I knew it. Yes. If I'll be honest with you, I was gonna wait until you said your number one. I was actually thinking about I was gonna make that my number five, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna take that from Brad because I bet that's gonna be his number one. But that's how much I actually like that movie too. That creeped me out too when I first saw it. Yeah. 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 I agree. He was really good in that, especially when he transformed, into evil. That was good, and the story in that, like in space, we know that there's shit out there we don't know about, but for this ship to go so far that it like goes to hell and back, that's pretty creepy. Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. Yes. Didn't see it. I saw Annabelle. I didn't really care for it. Yeah. I need to watch it then. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You told me about that. Yeah. Right. Hmm. You too, Brad. Thank you. It was a good episode. I liked it. Me too. Yeah, I was thinking it would be a good one to do for Halloween, but we're not going to be able to wait till Halloween to do that. We're running out of genres. Yes, as always, horror movies are a great form of art, and without art, the world would be even suckier than it is. So go out and support your art. Bye, guys.